Hi, my name is Mercy and this is my foolproof beginner false lash application video. So if you're new to putting on eyelashes and this is your first time ever doing it, this video will hopefully be helpful to you. So before we get into the actual putting on process, I just want to go through all the supplies that you need. First, obviously you're going to need false lashes. They come in packs like these. You can get even bigger packs, but it's always good to have at least enough that you'll know you'll need for the entire season. That way you don't have to ever worry about running out. The next thing you're going to need is some tweezers. They're not necessary. You can use your fingertips, but I always find it way easier to use a nice pair of tweezers like this. You'll need a nice small pair of scissors. Even the little nail scissors might work. Next, you're going to need eyelash glue. You're going to want to find one that is white and dries clear. It's also easier to use the brush kind. There's also kinds that kind of look like this at the top, but in my opinion, it's more beginner and user-friendly to use the brush on kind. Lastly, the things that I think that you need that help me complete my look and make it look as seamless as possible is to use a nice thin liquid eyeliner and a brush that looks kind of like this, and then just some regular mascara. Before we hop into doing all of the application process, just keep in mind there's some programs and some eye looks you might not be able to do some of the things that I'm saying in this video, so just keep in mind anything that your director or program has asked you to do with your eye makeup look. So my pro tip number one is to put on a light layer of mascara before you do your lashes. So for me, I'm just going to take my eyelash curler and curl really fast. And I'm going to take just a super duper light coat. We don't need them thick by any means, but we want something on. And this is going to help our eyelashes not be sticking out from underneath our false lashes. Sometimes what can happen is if your natural lashes don't have anything on underneath them, or they're not curled up, sometimes they can peek out underneath. So you'll have these nice big lashes that are curling up. Your natural lashes might be sticking out underneath, and we don't want that. We want them to blend in together. And my next pro tip is before you put on your lashes, to go ahead, do a super duper thin layer of black eyeliner on top of your lashes. This is so that if you put on your eyelashes and let's say it's just a little bit too high and it's not connected to where your natural eyelashes are, you won't be able to see that gap because there'll be a black line there. So here I am, I'm just drawing a super thin black line on top of my lashes. Obviously, if your eyeliner look is different and you have something else going on, either omit this stuff or tweak it to make it fit. But for me, just a nice thin line where my lashes are going to go, so that if my placement is off, you won't be able to tell. I also like to draw it down just a little bit, because where the end of the lashes are, sometimes it's kind of abrupt. Doing a small little thin line down into the corner of your eye will help when you put them on, and that way you can't tell where the end is. You have your fake lashes. What you'll need to do before you even think about putting glue on them is to measure them to your eyes. Usually they come pretty big, but they always need at least a little bit of a trim. So you'll need to take your eyelash off. I like to use a little pair of tweezers and just gently peel it off. They have adhesive already on it, so you're going to want to make sure you take that off because it's not going to mix well when you add your actual eyelash glue. So I have my eyelashes, so I'll find the shortest end, and I'm going to line that up with the end of where my natural lashes are that I can see. So we do have like tiny ones that go all the way in the corner, but you can't really see those. So if I'm just looking at my eyes naturally, and I see with my mascara it ends about here, I'm going to start measuring there. I'm just going to close my eyes so I can see, and I'm kind of lining it up, and so it looks like I need just this last little bit cut off at the end. So for me, I kind of measured, and it's about right here that I need to cut. You'll need a nice small pair of scissors. I'm just going to trim, I don't know if you can see that, right there. just enough to take that tiny bit off. I can kind of see that there's a little bit of this clear part poking out the front, and I'm going to go ahead and trim that off as well, being very gentle to not cut the eyelashes. The reason why I'm cutting this part off is because sometimes it can kind of poke into the corner of your eye, which can be really uncomfortable and cause watery eyes. Fourth pro tip is to color your eyelash. You can see my eyelash. The band is clear. When you put it on your eyes, you can tell that it's clear. Like, it shows up almost as white. So what I like to do, especially because I did that black line, is I like to take my liquid eyeliner and I will just cover the top and I will color it in. Just the top side, not the underside. So to show you, it's not perfect, but it's now black. All this does is cover up the clear band, which appears white when you put it on your eyes, and it'll blend into the solid line that we created with the eyeliner earlier to make sure that we can't see the band of the eyelash. Now we get to the actual application process. So the easiest way, in my opinion, is to have a glue that kind of looks like this, and one that has a brush top, because it's easier to control where the glue goes on and making sure you don't have too much. So when you're choosing where to put the glue on your eyelash, you need to make sure that you know where your eyelash is in orientation. So I'm holding mine with some tweezers, but if you can kind of see where, if I turn it to the side, where it's curving up. I'm wanting to find the edge of that, because when I put the eyelash on my eye, I want the ends to be curling upwards like that and not downwards. I have to put the glue where it can stick up, if that makes sense. I take my glue and I'm just doing a nice layer on the back. So again, I'm literally holding it where the curl is so that I know exactly where I'm putting the glue is going to be on the back side. So when I put it on, the eyelashes will be curled up. I'm making sure that I'm giving a little bit extra attention to these edges because they like to peel up. You want to make sure you avoid getting any glue in the actual lash itself, making sure you're only getting it on the end of the band. Now once you've put the glue on the band, you want to make sure that you wait at least 20, 30, even 40 seconds for it to get tacky. You put it on right when it's wet, it's not going to stick to your face. You can usually tell because when I put it on, it was like whitish blue, and now I'm looking at it and it's still a little blue, but it's not as white anymore, so I know it's not as wet. So I'm going to take my tweezers again. You can use your fingertips and grab right at the middle, and I'm going to line it up with the middle of my eye. I'm holding it to where the eyelash is facing up. And press it on, so find the middle, press it in. I'm going to take my tweezers and grab the front corner and gently press it down into the corner of my eye. Grab the end, to the corner, and I'm going to go back and forth between the inner corner, the middle, and the edge. And I'm just grabbing it and literally pressing it into my eyelid. And after I've kind of adjusted a little bit with my tweezers, I'll take my fingers and just kind of lightly adjust. And then you need to blink a few times and make sure that you're not being poked. If you close your eyes and you feel pinching in the front corner, usually you just put the placement too far forward, or you need to make sure you trim that little clear band from the front. And same thing with the back, you might need to trim a little bit more to make sure that it's not pinching and that it feels comfortable. So now that I've placed it, I can see that the inner corner is lifted a little bit too much, but it's glued down. And that's why we have the black eyeliner. That way I can just take it and fill that space in, so that way it doesn't look like it's a mistake. If now I'm going to speed around the other side, going over once again each step, but this time a little bit faster. So we gently lift off the plastic, we don't want to rip the eyelashes, and then we take the glue off. We go ahead and cut that little front piece off if it's sticking out, and then we measure to our eyes. We'll check the length. Color it in. Should look something like that. Take our brushed glue, make sure we're holding the eyelash correct, Add it to the back side with the eyelashes facing upwards. Let it dry for 20 to 30 seconds. Find the middle of my eyelashes and place it down. Take my tweezers, grab the front, place it down, grab the back, place it down, and then go back and forth. Take my fingers and press it down and fill in anywhere that needs to be filled in. Alright, so at this point you should be able to blink and not feel like anything is loose. If you feel that, it probably is loose and you want to make sure you glue it back down. And then you want to double check from the sides that your natural lashes aren't sticking straight out. And in that case, you would need to add some more mascara. So I see a little bit underneath. Take my mascara and just push it up a little bit. Now let's say that it's lifting. This is how you're going to fix it. For lifting corners, you want to take your glue and you want to kind of take some of the excess off. I'm going to do to the corner and I'll lift it up just enough to get my little brush underneath it. And getting my brush underneath it and applying to the back side. And then just like you did the first time you put glue on, you're going to want to let it get tacky. So while that happens, I'm going to do it on the other side. Lift and put behind, and then you let it get tacky. Use your finger and hold it there, just to make sure that it stays. Your finger, you'll hold it in place for a few seconds while it dries. It's a good idea to go ahead and check both corners. So I check the corners, but I'm also going to check the inner corners. I'm just going to do that by lifting a little bit. That one's stuck on, and that one's stuck on. For me, I still always would carry my eyelash glue. If I had some way of transporting it, I always wanted to double check before I went on that my eyelashes were still there. And as you can see, putting on lashes isn't about it being perfect. Like this corner is up a little bit too high. There's a little bit of a lift right here. Just making sure that everything looks as seamless as you can get it and nothing looks crazy. And then just making sure that it stays on for your whole face. So this is the end of your eyelash tutorial. Hopefully you learned something new. Just remember, practice becomes progress. Keep trying it out. Figure out what works for you. Figure out what doesn't work for you. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you have any questions, let me know.